Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is the Edge of Liberty podcast.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Sean.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHI Media Network. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. It is the 18th of March, 2026. Here in California, it was hot as balls, 90 degrees. This happens, especially when we start rolling into spring. You get some weird weather patterns. We'll probably cool off, get some more rain again, get some more snow up in the mountains. But, man, I am not ready for summer yet. I'm not a son, Oh, your gain is hot on your mic. Hopefully that's a little bit better, Ricky. Thank you for that. See, I like positive feedback from the chat. I'll even bring it off there a little bit. Hopefully that's better for everybody. But if he is, I am definitely not a warm weather person. I haven't been for years. The older I get, the less I like the heat. So to get stuck with the 90 today, brutal. I know it could be worse. I know there are people in Oklahoma that's dealing with the fires, and our thoughts are with you guys as well. Obviously, there are people deployed to a war zone right now. I know people have a much harder life than I. Does not mean I can't bitch a little bit here and there. And speaking of bitches, Governor Gavin Newsom. See what I did there? See, that's called a segue, folks. That's how you know I've been doing this for a while. Just set it up, knock it out. Governor Gavin Newsom has been... I try so hard not to talk about Newsom every show. I really go out of my way to try to not talk about this son of a bitch. But the problem is he's in this weird limelight of people thinking, including Gavin himself, that he's relevant. And then people take and Izzy and all the little twerps that run his little governor press office BS come out and just say stupid shit. And then I'm forced to comment on it because you just can't not comment on such a stupid shit that he's trying to pull. And again, this guy will never be president. Never. The entire country sees him for what he is. Gavin Newsom will never be president. And this isn't like Obama saying Trump will never be president. No. Gavin Newsom will never be president because outside of California and the uber progressive left, even Democrats hate fucking Gavin Newsom. And it's not a secret. They're not shy about it. So, going back to March 10th. Now, gas prices in California right now are averaging $5.53 a gallon. It's a lot of money. It is a lot of money. And this is what happens when you, as I've said before, create a fuel island for yourself, and then you make gas. And by the way, 80% of our fuel comes from overseas. Talked about that before. Special blend, yada, yada, yada. If you don't know it, look into it. And Newsom's still trying to blame it on strictly the conflict in Iran, which I'm going to cover in the next segment. But the national average is 368 during a conflict in one of the most oil-rich regions in the world with trouble with the Hormuz Straits. And it's still only 368. It's still less than it was under Biden. In California, that's a $1.85 gap over the national fucking average. $1.85. There are places in Texas right now, it's still under 310. And he's trying to now stop the Sable offshore pipeline, which comes from a drilling well off the coast of California, which would actually help, lower prices, increase the amount of oil we have it pumped and grabbed in America and refined cheaper and cleaner and all these other things. He's trying to stop it. It did have a leak a couple years ago. That is tragic. It is an unfortunate reality that it happens sometimes. It's almost like, well, when you look at deliberate acts, it doesn't fall into that. It's not like allowing homelessness to go out of control so you can funnel money into your friends' pockets. It's not giving grants to nonprofits that your wife runs so that money goes back into your profit. It is what's called a true accident. And it is sad when these accidents happen. Yes. However, the trade-off to that is O2, thank you for moderating this evening. The Phantom, thank you for moderating this evening. Jersey Joe, I'm going to read about that in a second. And then, of course, BZ being the first in chat tonight. And he likes to make sure everybody knows that he is, in fact, the first in chat tonight. Even when he's not, he's old. We let him have it. We let him feel special. He's not going to be around for too long. But as I was saying, you have people in a state where unemployment's higher than just about anywhere else. Cost of living is through the roof. All Newsom's fault. All the Democrats' fault. And you're going to turn around and stop, because environmentals, and try to stop this pipeline from coming back online. The pipeline that was online for numerous years. And you're going to turn around and look, Newsom needs to try to change the narrative, because everything he's done has been awful. Everything is terrible in California because of Newsom. Now, California is actually paying a $1.3 million settlement for unconstitutional ban on gun advertising. Jersey Joe just shared that in the chat. So that tells you like the mindset of California. By the way, when it says California agrees, that means the California taxpayers have to pay that now. So California fucked up and the taxpayers are paying for it yet again. This is so typical in California. The taxpayers just take it to the face here. Now, he's fighting this Sable pipeline. After Phillips 66 is closing, the Valero's closing, that's 25% of our refining possibility. Oh, and I don't know if you saw, and I don't have the full video, because for investigations like this, if I have a 30-second clip, I'll play it, but I don't want to steal somebody else's content outright when they've done really good work. The O'Keefe Media Group, you remember James O'Keefe, he started Project Veritas, obtained undercover footage from State Farm VP Hayden Kirkpatrick, admitting State Farm used mass cancellations as leverage to force California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara to improve rate hikes. So, and this, of course, you add that into the fires, and let's see. Grim Reaper said, "I saw a proposed tax per mile." Yeah, I will talk about that in a second, Grim Reaper, because I mentioned that the other night, and there's more to it, because the person in charge of that for the state of California, I'll touch on this right now, was on the news like 2 or 3 weeks ago saying, "Oh, we're just trying to, we're just floating ideas around, and we're going to try to check things out, and we're probably not going to do it." which is entirely, oh, sorry, I was just trying to get the blood flow back in my hand, which is a lie. They are going to fucking do it. They're going to try the tax per mile thing, and it's going to be a shit show. Now, if you don't know, California has the highest registration rates in the country. I have an 11-year-old pickup truck, and my registration is still $400 a year. Still $400 a year for an 11-year-old pickup truck. That's how ridiculous it is here. That doesn't include the smog you have to get on an 11-year-old pickup truck. That doesn't include the price of gas. The insurance is through the roof. And this is all Newsom. This is the guy who is trying to run for president. And I'm not even talking about all the lies, all the laws that went against parents and put kids at risk and all the other stuff that Newsom signed up. This is just the top of the iceberg, so to speak, the tip of the iceberg. And then it comes to find out, you know all about everything in the LA fires. We know how ridiculous it is. We know the LA Fire Department that Mayor Bass essentially set them up to fail, and the leadership of that department did not help themselves. Not the folks on the ground, but the leadership. Well, come to find out, apparently the civilian board, there's 6 of them that oversees that. Reports are today 5 of them walked off the job. You have these civilians, and these are oftentimes do-nothing jobs that are handed out to certain friends of friends of friends to be on these commissioner boards, to essentially do what the person who appointed them tells them to do. Oh, we'll approve this, we'll approve that, we'll say this looks good, we'll get rid of that. Da, 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 da. That's what these commissions are. All these civilian commissions are political kiss asses for the most part, who couldn't make it in politics, but they did enough where somebody had to throw them a bone. And 5 of them walked out of their job with the LA Fire Department because of the LA fires. I'm just letting you know what a shit show California is. And it's a state where for years, Cesar Chavez was considered to be he has his own holiday. He was a farm worker. He was a socialist. He pushed all the unions here. And for years, he's got streets named after him. You get a state holiday for it. There's parks named after him. Oh, he's the greatest guy ever. He's the greatest guy ever. He's the greatest guy ever. And I know just from living here and talking to people that he was not, in fact, a great guy. That behind closed doors, he was an asshole. He was a jerk. He was a womanizer. And those are just some of the nicer things that's being said about him. Well, apparently it came out today that Cesar Chavez allegedly, a long time ago, committed an essay against a 14-year-old girl. And now, and this is my favorite parts about Democrats, and especially the super progressives and the socialists and the union lovers, who I can't stand the unions. They always build up these people to be these heroes. And even though there's a bunch of other people going, he may not be the guy you think it is. Oh, no. We can win off saying this guy's name. We can push our agenda off saying this guy's name, yada, yada, yada. And they named everything after him in the state. He's got freeways named after him. And I know over at Katie Grimes, who originally was on the SAC Citizen, now she writes for California Globe. I can remember covering a story that she had back in like 2018 on Sackheads that said that everything about Cesar Chavez that they're all acting shocked about now was true back then. And when the story was brought up, you were called, well, because he's Hispanic, you must be racist. Oh, it's just because you're a conservative and you hate unions. I do. But that wasn't the only reason. Oh, this, oh, that. It never wants to focus on the person. They just want to say you're wrong for disagreeing. It's like I talked about Monday night. That's what Democrats do. They get you in the emotional argument, and then they essentially give you the binary choices. If you don't emotionally attach to this and give everything emotionally to that, then you are completely against us. Well, no, I can disagree with some things and agree with you here. No. If you don't blindly just fucking go along with what we're telling you, you're a bigot, you're a homophobe, you're a racist, you're this, you're that, you're the other thing. That's been the Democrat trap since Obama. A couple years before Obama got elected, but that's been the Democrat chat. And I can remember hearing that when I was questioning Cesar Chavez back in the day. I used to work downtown Sacramento where all the unions used to come and protest. And I remember talking to individual people in the unions, be like, did you hear about this? Because there's several reports. How dare you say that about Cesar Chavez? He was a great man who assaulted 14-year-old females. So I occasionally want to give everybody the overall idea of what it's like to live in California. And I'm not done yet. Because I mentioned James O'Keefe's story earlier with the vice president over there at State Farm, who, of course, they were coercing the state government to raise insurance rates on homeowners when it's already impossible to fucking live here, right? And the state government went along with it. And the head of the insurance, look into that dude. I forget his name. Hold on. I got it here. I do have it in my notes. Ricardo Lara. There's been controversy about Lara for the last couple of years. He jets off all over the place for free, probably paid by State Farms and others. I don't know that for sure. Just probably. He's out of the country more than he's in the country, right? And he was the one who agreed to raise the rates. So that just, again, that tells you overall what we're looking at. And then, of course, there's the O'Keefe story and the Nick Shirley story. So Nick Shirley is now... and the other O'Keefe story. I'm sorry, that's not even the only fucking O'Keefe story. The other one is the ballot harvesting that goes on here in California. Yeah. So these initiative groups who want to get an initiative on the ballot, who want to pass an initiative or whatever, they need X amount of signatures. I think it's 500,000 in California. Don't quote me on that. It might be 250,000 if you want to get an initiative to be voted on by the people. Well, some of these groups have been caught going into where the homeless populations are, handing out money for people to sign up. And not only, and again, I'm not going to play O'Keefe's video because I want you to go watch it on his side. I want to give him the credit for it. And they're paying $3-4, sometimes having people sign other people's names to get these initiatives on the ballots. And of course, the homeless guys, if I was homeless and out of a job, and every time I sign this, you're going to give me a couple of bucks. Yeah, I'll sign fucking anyone's name, right? How many times? 1,000? You want to give me $4,000 say for signing a name? Sure. Why not? I ain't nothing to lose. I'm homeless, criminal record, whatever. So why would I give a fuck? And this is the problem. I saw a great video earlier today that talks about societal trust and how so much of trust in this country has been eroded. That's why you see things like T-shirts and underwear and deodorant locked up in stores. And essentially why we've gotten here as a society is because there used to be a general idea of what societal trust was. You could trust people even if you disagreed with them not to do this or not to do that or potentially do this good thing. And that's been eroded for the last 20 years in this country. It's eroded. You see it in these mass takeover robberies, right? You see it with these rioting. You see it with all of these decisions. And the progressive left specifically, their messaging has in fact created and fueled a lot of this. We've done shows upon shows about it. I'm not going to sit here and run it all out again because you can go back and watch one of my old shows and there's a million different examples of it. And this is another example because these ballot initiative people get all of this money from PACs. They know where to go. They know who to target. They're using essentially these homeless people, many of them not mentally cognitive to understand what they're doing. And it's all on video. So then on top of that, you have Nick Shirley, who's down here allegedly unearthing millions of dollars in more ghost daycares and the hospice frauds that are going on. Watch Nick Shirley's videos going into these places where there's 20 hospice places in these one little business park. And you have guys coming out driving brand new, what's it, BMW M8 or something like that. But there's nobody inside. Half of them don't even have offices in there. They just have a printed store business sign on the front. and not printed like they even wasted enough time to go online and use AI or even anything generic, or going to Staples and buy Yes, We're Open. No, it's printed on a piece of 8 by 11 paper. We're talking millions and millions of dollars. And Newsom's scared, and Newsom's scared because he's going after Nick Shirley. Now, look, I will say this time and again. If I was Gavin Newsom, the best thing I would do is say nothing about investigations like this. Because if you truly believe there's nothing going on, then I would say that. Like, yeah, no, if you unearth something, we'll deal with it. But I don't think there's anything there. That's about the most I would say about this. You want to go after other politicians? Yeah, that's fair game. Politician in the world is fine. But when you have a young man who has exposed a ton of fraud in Minnesota, I'm not saying he's a super investigator. I'm not saying he's the best journalist in the world, but he's doing the legwork. And you can't tell me that of all the fraud that we know now is in Minnesota, that California doesn't have at least as much, if not more, just by how large and poorly run the state of California is. I did that whole article on shrmedia.com about how easy it is to get Medi-Cal in California. How they throw out like, oh, well, you need a driver's license for us to validate. And then on the next page, you can turn around and say, yeah, but to get a driver's license, you don't even need to be a resident. You just have to claim to have lived somewhere, and it's very easy to bypass, and there's no proof needed. So you can get that driver's license easy. Then you can claim residency to get Medi-Cal, which gets you all of your health insurance for free because you say, I don't have a job. And then, as we talked about before with the reports of people living over the border and then coming over to get healthcare treatment, this is absolutely an ongoing issue to the tunes of millions and millions and millions of dollars. J&S Casinos, tell me where he was convicted of actual fraud. Actual fraud in the tune of millions and millions and millions of dollars. And not because there was lawfare and they started adding things in to try to recreate the law. But go ahead. Tell me all the different... explain to me why J&S Casinos, there was like 94 federal investigations on him. Why you have people trying to investigate him in places that he never lived or worked? It was lawfare. Don't give me that shit. And we're not talking about politicians right now, per se. We're talking about individuals taking advantage of a system like hospice. So even if you're right, he was all of a sudden actually fraudulent to millions and millions of dollars. Does that make it right for these businesses to do it? But I know, Orange Man bad. What about Trump? Go fuck yourself. It's amazing. They never want to have a conversation about anything else without mentioning Trump's name. And then they'd say everybody else is in a cult. Everybody else is in the cult. But they can't go 5 minutes. This has nothing to do with Trump. What I'm talking about right now has everything to do with California. I'm not mentioning Trump. But the cultists have to come in here and mention it because it's all they have when they're in the third world countries trying to act like they're Americans. And we know who they are. Holy crap, what time is it? 8:23. Let's see. I did have a couple of videos I wanted to play. By the way, speaking of politicians in Texas, this is James Tellerico, and I was just talking about Cesar Chavez. Leaders like Cesar Chavez build strong nations and a strong middle class. And this was when? March 31st, 2023. Yeah, James Tellerico is no centrist either, friends, contrary to what everyone's trying to tell you. Oh, before I go to break, let's talk a little bit about Markwayne Mullen's confirmation on the Hill today. And there's a story of two different interactions. One of them I'm going to play afterwards because it shows you like, and I've admitted I was wrong about him in the past, but how certain politicians can actually disagree but still do so in a way that you can agree. And then there are other ones who just can't even stop themselves. And Rand Paul is one of those other ones. And here's the interaction between Markwayne Mullen and Rand Paul. And they don't even like each other.
Everybody in this room knows that I'm very blunt and direct to the point. And if I have something to say, I'll say it directly to your face. If you recall, back in my House days, we actually did have this conversation because of remarks that I've made. You were in a room I simply addressed that I said I could understand because of the behavior you were having, that I could understand why the neighbor did what he did. As far as my terms, the snake in the grass, sir, I work around this room to try to fix problems. I've worked with many people in this room. Seems like you fight Republicans more than you work with us. I did address those remarks. I did explain your gimmicks by the amendment you put forth. And as far as me saying that I invoke violence, I don't. I don't think anybody should be hit by surprise. I don't like that. But if I do have something to say, everybody in this room knows I'll come straight to you. I'll say it publicly and I'll say it privately, but I'll never say it behind your back. So for you to say, am I a liar, sir? That's not accurate. And I got proof to say that because you have spent millions of dollars in my campaigns against me because we just don't get along. However, sir, that doesn't keep me at all from doing my job. I can have different opinions with everybody in this room, but as Secretary of Homeland, I'll be protecting everybody, including Kentucky, as much as I will my own backyard in Oklahoma.
So, and Rand Paul was mad because at one point Mark Wayne Mullen said, I kind of understood why the guy punched you in the face. And was it unclassy? Sure, but it was behind closed doors. It was a private conversation that got back. It was not a classy but who cares? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a conversation between two people to be had, right? J&S Casinos, his dad Ron Paul would have been great as president. I think Ron Paul absolutely has his place. I don't know how great of a president Ron Paul would have been. And that's not anything against Ron Paul. I just think that he was I don't know. I don't necessarily disagree with that answer, but I'm not as convinced as others would be. And no, Bernie wouldn't. If you say Bernie would have been a great president, you're no centrist, my friend. If you think Bernie, who's all but a devout communist, self-admitted, who vacationed in the Soviet Union, who's all about socialism, then no, you are not a centrist, dude. You just think you are. That's like me calling myself a centrist. I don't claim to be a centrist. I'm a conservative. I have no problem admitting it, but that is absolutely not a true statement from a centrist. Anywho, that was J&S Casinos. I appreciate you being in chat, but I disagree with you there. Well, like I said earlier, that was a little back and forth between Rand Paul and Mark Wayne Mullen because Rand Paul's a petulant child, like Mission Ready Men said in the chat room a minute ago. He's a giant baby. He is so emotional. He's playing off this libertarian grift, and I know I've said this. Massey does the same thing, where the libertarians don't have anywhere else really to give their money. And I'm not against libertarians per se. Some of their ideas are absolutely go against my my beliefs or ideals. So I'm not libertarian. I have some small libertarian agreements, absolutely. But Rand Paul and Massey play themselves off as these ginormous libertarians. And it's only to farm money from libertarians and libertarian PACs that have nowhere else to really put it. And it's been going on for years, and it's shocking to me that the libertarians haven't figured it out yet. And they're both emotional and petulant. And look, there are sometimes I have agreed with Rand Paul. I was talking about Ron earlier. And there are sometimes I've agreed with Thomas Massey. I've interviewed Thomas Massey one-on-one. Yeah, he's a nice guy. But there's some things that he does that I just absolutely don't agree with, and I think it's counterproductive. And I think he does it just so he can say, oh, this is what the libertarians would want. Give me more money so I can get reelected. I don't think that's truly who he is. Another guy, and I'm about to play him now before I go into the break, who was I've been incredibly harsh on John Fetterman in the past. I was harsh during the election. I've been harsh with him recently, but I've also said that he's one of the few Democrats that seemingly wants to have a conversation with the other side of the aisle, where it's not all about insults. It's not all about arguments. And it's more of a mindset of like, let's agree where we can agree. And I talked about this with Bill Maher the other night too. Let's agree where we can agree and then work out the other stuff later. And John Fetterman has come to the front of the pack of doing that. And this is Fetterman today in the same hearing with Mark Wayne Mullen. And this is, I mean, outside the Carhartt shirt, I still have an issue with the Carhartt shirt. But listen to what he has to say about Mark Wayne Mullen. This is how you can conduct yourself. And look, I've said before, I don't like it when conservatives just go balls to the wall with insults either. I don't think it's overly productive. There are ways you can say you're an idiot nicely without having to, and sometimes people have to get blasted, verbally, and then other times it doesn't have to be 24/7, which is what our government, strictly Congress more than anyone else, has become for the last 16 years. But here is Fetterman.
For me, I came here and I committed to come here with an open mind, and I'm going to continue to do that. And it's not going to be about gotcha moments. For me, it's about just saying my experience with you has been consistent kindness and professionalism. The first time I met, it was you and your wife behind you when I was here at the orientation here in the Senate. And even before you got the call for the big job, we were even discussing about getting together and having dinner as family. For me,
if we can get back to a place where we can legitimately disagree and have good discourse and try to come to the consensus of some point. And I'm not saying you have to meet in the middle on everything. And I have no issues with people sticking their heels in the sand when it's time. But that doesn't mean that everything has to be about go fuck yourself, right? It doesn't mean that everything we disagree on means that that other person's a fucking shitbag human being. Yeah, are there plenty of shitbag human beings in Congress? 100%. But that doesn't mean every single thing. And hats off to John Fetterman for saying that like a man. And I appreciate that sort of comment. I'm up against a break. We come back. I have another, and by the way, Calvin Lopez, welcome to the channel and thank you for being here, sir. I appreciate your comment. I get some more videos I want to play for you. Get a couple more topics I want to talk about, and I'll be back right after this on the SHR Media Network. Please like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to the SHR Media Shop. This is not just merch, it is a statement. SHR Media is built as a rebellion against the mainstream. We deliver truth without a filter or permission. When you wear our gear, you are standing for liberty and unapologetic free thought. Every piece is a badge of support for independent journalism. Wear it loud, wear it proud. Support the mission and join the rebellion at the SHR Media web store.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHI Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. So, I think it was yesterday, or maybe no, it was today? Yesterday. Joe Kent, he was the former director of the National Counterterrorism under Trump, resigned, allegedly because he opposed Operation Epic Fury, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. And of course, the Democrats were immediately like, haha, they're falling apart. Trump administration's falling apart. More people need to leave and blah, 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 blah. It's happening. We're finally got them this time. We're finally getting them this time, guys. It's fall coming apart now. We're going to be in the re-education camps anytime now. That's the Democrats every single time they think they have a win. They just go running with it. And run they do. Except it's come out that there's an investigation on Joe Kent from the FBI that predated his resignation. In other words, he knew he was going to be investigated for leaking classified information and then turned around and said, well, to cover my own ass, I'm going to say I oppose the war and I'm going to resign that way. So that becomes the story to try to cover up my legacy. How many times do I have to say on this show? The media does this, and politicians and bureaucrats do this all the time. They put out the bigger story they want you to see so you don't see the other story. And that looks like what's going to happen here now. Now, look, obviously, the investigation has to run its course. And I'm not saying he's guilty, but I'm saying when you resign and we find out that there was an investigation going on against you, and obviously you caught wind of it, doesn't necessarily look good for your innocence, does it? And leaking classified information, which we know under this administration, whether you like the administration or not, has been something that they have been absolutely hammering, protecting classified information. And he's out there leaking it. They hate leaks, and they should hate leaks. Classified information is classified information. And that story is now starting to come across. So that's that. And of course, the Democrats now are going to cry and, well, they're only investigating him because he came out and he resigned. No, it happened before he did. He's resigning as a result. I mentioned Iran. Let's throw a quick update for Operation Epic Fury. It's not that I'm not interested, and it's not. It's so amazing. It's not that I'm not interested, and it's not that it's not important. When you cover it every show for a few weeks, you occasionally don't want to make the whole segment about it. So that's why I'm going to give an Iran update, and then I'm going to move on. Reports that the quote-unquote head of the snake in Iran is completely removed, that less and less of the people who are quote-unquote in charge are really in charge. On the 18th, the elimination of Esmail Khatib, I may have pronounced that wrong, the head of Minister of Intelligence, he was killed at precision strike. He's one of the people they think was essentially running the country. So that's another leader that was picked off. Khatib joins at least 48 others. There was also Ali Larijani, who's the war strategist for Iran, and Glarmoza Soleimani, who is the besieged commander. It's not going to last long. I know, they're putting groups in the ground now. No, they're putting 2,500 on the island of Karg because they want to make sure that Iran can't come back and use it, but they're not putting boots on the ground. As a matter of fact, word now coming out of the Middle East and through some channels, I could be wrong. This is just information that I've heard or seen. So I admittedly could be wrong. But there is a coalition among Middle Eastern countries that are organizing to try to actually handle the boot on the ground part. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out, if that does in fact work out. And I hope it does work out. Look, I said a couple weeks ago when all of this started, and I also said it when Leah was on the air with me from the Leah Files, that was always one of the plans, is that the local countries will do the boots on the ground, including Israel, to try to stabilize that nation. I also said that the Shah is probably going to return and try to be an interim government until they can get elections underway. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. But that's what it looks like so far. Over the weekend, CENTCOM confirmed that they used the GB272 Advanced 5K penetrator that was launched from the F-15, one of the greatest planes that's ever been invented. The F-15 is still to this day, as old of technology and design that it is, still one of the most badass planes in the air. Yeah, the stealth guys have their place, and they do amazing things. But the F-15 being designed in, what was it, 75, 76, and for it still being in a battle and still being one of the most successful fighter aircraft. But it also has the absolute most juice in the engines. The F-15 essentially can fly missing a wing, and that's not an exaggeration. That's how much thrust it has. It carried those 5,000-pound advanced bunker busters, and they hit what is believed to be numerous anti-ship missile sites along the Strait of Hormuz. As I mentioned earlier, they're trying to tighten that up because there's been attacks, because Iran don't have much else left. If they can't control the Strait of Hormuz, they don't have much less left in ways of missile launchers. And what they are launching now, too, it's funny, tells you a lot. All the countries, including the Middle Eastern countries, that are involved. There we go. F-15 entered service in 1976. I was close, mission ready men. Thank you. I know my F-15 history a little bit. Anyways. But they're going after military targets and leadership targets in the country of Iran. Oh, look, there's an Iranian in the chat room under the name of Sean Lawrence. But yeah, we were talking about the Strait of Hormuz. And I was just laughing at this comment because it's absolutely ridiculous. So if they can open up the strait, and as these missile launches get less and less, and like I said, all the countries that are launching strikes within Iran are striking government facilities, they're striking leadership facilities, they're striking infrastructure that the military controls. That's the plan. And if you look at the videos coming out of Iran, which is still crazy to me to say, the videos coming out of Iran. I was talking to Jersey Joe on the phone earlier tonight. If you said last year, oh, we're getting a lot of videos out of Iran, I'd say bullshit. You can't get videos out of Iran. Now you can. Now you can get videos out of Iran, and it shows the people are still actively protesting, going against the leadership, including the IRGC and others. So you have that going on. But as the other countries, U.S., Israel, and the other countries that are joining, okay, and I don't think you do either, Sean, but thanks. Iran is doing exactly what Iran's always done, and they're targeting civilians in Israel and other countries. And that's the difference. And imagine that country with nukes when they get pissed off, and that leadership with nukes when they get pissed off. That's what they would do. They'd go after civilian populations. They're using cluster bombs on civilian populations. So that just gives you insight into how Iran is and what's going on there. And of course, there's the Jones Act waiver that was announced today, a 60-day waiver extension. And we'll see. Like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I got other things I want to talk about, but we will absolutely see where it's going to go. And look, I don't think there's going to be American troops on the ground in mainland Iran. I know Karg Island's going on there. And like I said, I think it's going to be other countries because that's what we've always wanted, is other countries to step in. So yeah, do I not remember how this war started? Yes, we started attacking the Iranian government. I remember, Sean, I was watching. So yeah, I remember. Anywho, let's go over the SAVE Act. There was another bill that was passed today. What are we at? 15 minutes left. Another bill that passed today that this one didn't get a lot of conversation in the media, and maybe I missed it. Maybe you did too. But this bill here was passed that would be automatic deportation of illegals who commit welfare fraud. And here's the passing of the bill right here.
186, the bill is passed. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. On this vote, the yeas are 231, the nays are 186. The bill is passed.
And of course, for some reason, the Democrats voted against that, which it just blows my mind. Because if you have immigrants here that are non-American citizens who are committing fraud against the country, then why would we want to keep them here? That makes no sense to me whatsoever. But that's the Democrats showing their ass, which they're also showing it on the SAVE Act. So the SAVE Act has been tremendously beefed up. It's not the same version it was 2 years ago. There is a proof of citizenship requirement. Now, I've heard everything. Oh, women won't be able to vote. People of color won't be able to vote because the Democrats think they're not smart enough to be able to get an ID, to prove who they are, to get a copy of their birth certificate. It's incredible. And it's looking more and more, with the exception of the idiot from Alaska, that this bill might actually pass. Now, we were all hoping Fetterman would get on board. And this is a point where I don't agree with John Fetterman on this one, clearly, because I want the SAVE Act to pass. But I can also understand why he's not just given his party, and that's whatever. I disagree with it. I think this is a no-brainer as well. When we talk about our politics and we talk about our elections, which is one of the most sacred rights that we have in this country, even when they're utter douchebags and you don't like them, the simple fact of the matter is you have the right to pick the leaders of your country. Now, we're not a direct democracy. We're a representative government. We're a constitutional republic. That's how it is. So picking our leaderships to represent us, and again, I think we should repeal the 17th, but that's neither here nor there, is one of the most sacred things that we have. And when you have so many gaps in securing that, it's got to be comedy in the chat. That's got to be comedy in the chat. When you have so many gaps in the securement of that, it's actually a humongous issue. And that's not saying that every single election has been entirely rampant, but when you have elections that used to be able to be counted in days take 2, 3, 4, 5 days. When you have mail-in voting for people that have been dead for 15 years, when you have states that won't clear off their voting rolls, you start to ask a question as to why not. Clearing off voter rolls should be a no-brainer. There's no state that should not clean off their voter rolls every couple of years. Explain to me why they shouldn't. I think we should have to register to vote every 2 years or 4 years, something close to that. I think you should have to go in within every 4 years and prove that you're a citizen and you can vote. Pardon me. And I don't know what's wrong with that. I don't know what's wrong with that. Other than you want people to vote who are not citizens. That's the only other thing that could be wrong with that. You can make up all these excuses about how this person can't vote and that person can't vote. But then you have 80% of this country, as I've said before, who actually wants this passed. 80%. When was the last time this country's agreed on anything? Anything.
Who came to
at the 80th percentile on both sides of the aisle. Black people, Hispanic people. There's been nothing more recently that has been so agreed upon in this country other than the SAVE Act. And they're fighting it. You have the moron up in Alaska who's not going to vote on it. Why? It passed the vote today. The test vote went. It was 51-48. And of course, it's a motion to proceed, but that's one of the test votes. Murkowski was the lone Republican voting no. Her argument centers on the state rights, which that's a convenient argument. That is an absolute convenient argument. But the fact that they actually put it to the floor, look, I think John Thune is still garbage, and I think he needs to go. But the fact that they actually put it out there was incredibly smart for once. You have to get this going. And however the filibuster shows up, and it will, we just have to deal with it. But if you want to take so many questions that we've had, look, how many years now has there been questions in our elections about who's voting? And even the Democrats, every time Trump's won, oh, there's fraud. There's massive fraud in the system. And he's not, even Hillary Clinton doesn't believe that she lost. She's been on camera several times saying that. So why would we not want to remove doubt? Again, one of our most sacred rights in this country. Why would you not want to remove doubt? Because it's convenient to you. Now, they're already setting up. And I've said this before. Oh, you're going to see hundreds of thousands of people, the Democrats will say, who are not being able to vote. Okay, why? Well, do you know how hard it is to get your birth certificate? Yeah, you call City Hall, the county, pay you $2 or $3 and get it mailed to you. You know, women's birth certificates are different when they get married. Yeah, you bring your marriage license with you. It's not hard. And I've said this before. If it comes down to the argument of people don't know how to get their ID or can't afford to get their ID, I would be 100% willing to have a government issued ID to every citizen to make sure we secure our elections. It's a big cost, yeah. We spend a lot more money on other silly, frivolous things. I don't think that's silly or frivolous. I would give everybody an ID to remove that part of the argument. And then what? Then where's your argument? You're still worried about a couple 100,000 people not being able to vote? Because if that's the case, then it's because you know a couple 100,000 people are voting in the elections that shouldn't be. They're using somebody else's name. They're using somebody else's address. They're mailing in somebody else's vote. Because that's the only explanation at that point. A license is to perform something illegal. It's an interesting concept, but I don't necessarily agree with that. It wouldn't be a license to vote. It would just be an identification to vote. So that's my issue with the SAVE Act. And like I said, if you're on the fence about this, or if you're a leftist and you're like, well, I'm afraid people, if we give everyone an ID, would you approve it then? Would you want to make sure that your elections are secure then? Would that be totally fine? Game show. If people need to get their birth certificate to go vote, then people should start doing that right now, because not everyone has their birth certificate. Look, game show. I agree with you wholeheartedly. You should, as an adult, know where your birth certificate is. You need it for so many other things. Your social security card as well. You should have an ID. It shouldn't be a hard thing to do. You should be able to prove who you are as a citizen. Specifically, so, and it happens in the world of ID fraud and all this other stuff. You have to go and prove who you are at some point. You need to have all that together anyhow, but it's called adulting. That's what this is. It's adulting. You have to have all this stuff together. So, Sean Lawrence, the purpose is to prevent people. The purpose of the SAVE Act, Sean, in the chat room, is to prevent people who shouldn't be voting from voting in the election. That's what it's about. And in some states, you do need an ID to vote, but not everywhere. But yes, it would not stop citizens from voting. It would stop non-citizens from voting. Oh man, I absolutely love the trolls on the Democrats that come in the chat room and just say the same thing over and over and over again, like it matters. It doesn't matter. Who shouldn't be voting is non-citizens and felons. That's who shouldn't be voting. Non-citizens and felons. Non-citizens have no right to vote in our country, and felons lose the right to vote in many cases. That's just part of life. That's part of the reality that we live in. Last time I voted, Game Show said it was in 2016. They took my... Yeah, so Game Show, plenty. It's easy to get an ID. Like I said, in California, you can get an ID and not be a citizen here. They have whole programs for stuff like that. So you need to be able to prove that you're a citizen. Yes, entirely, because the case, he's actually still not a convicted felon. You keep trying to say he's a felon. Guess what? That case hasn't been adjudicated yet. It's been on hold. So yeah, he can vote. And it's probably going to lose under appeal because they made up special laws to try to do I believe in the United States as a corporation? No. Ridiculousness. Sovereign citizen bullshit. Get out of here with the take off. Get out of here with the sovereign citizen bullshit. I've heard that argument for years. Maritime law, I'm just traveling. Blah, 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 blah. Ridiculousness. A couple other stories to cover before. What do I get? 6 minutes left? Oh, yes. And then you have people who try to claim to be smart, like Jamie Raskin, and then say the most ridiculous thing in the world and have to be schooled in it. And I present to you the little penis himself.
Invoking Tom Paine, who was an undocumented immigrant who came to this land in 1774, 2 years before the revolution, and wrote Common Sense.
The member said, I think his opening sentence was, he said Thomas Paine was an illegal immigrant. My understanding was Mr. Paine was born in the UK, came to America, then a British colony in 1774. So I was just struggling to figure out how he was.
Oh, I didn't say he was an illegal immigrant. I said he was an undocumented immigrant. Just like Thomas Jefferson's family was. Most of our ancestors did not arrive here with
that. But Raskin is just so absolutely stupid. Another moron who doesn't know when to just go away is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene put this video up. This is heartbreaking. This is what we thought MAGA was going to end. We believe Trump would end this because he told us it would. This is Trump's new MAGA. And it shows a casket being loaded onto a plane, and under the caption it says, this illegal war has consequences. Sons and daughters are coming home in caskets for Israel, except for the fact that this video is actually not from that. It's been debunked several times, and you can go in and see the community notes. There's numerous websites. This is back from 2017. This video was put out. This video was actually for the Army Special Forces warrant officer Sean Thomas, who was a Green Beret who died on February 2nd, 2017 in Niger. And this was not taken this week, as many claim that it has. And this is when I talk to you about the dangers of social media. And look, how many times do I have to say this? Don't take my word from it. Don't take my word for anything. Hear what I have to say, and then go find the research yourself. Go do the actual work. Don't go to what people say something says. Don't go to what people go look it up yourself. Go to the source of whatever the information in and actually look it up. Stop taking other people's words from it, because you look like a moron. And Marjorie Taylor Greene still hasn't taken it down, even though there was 5 links underneath showing news stories from 2017 covering that. More morons in politics, and it never ends. And here's everyone's favorite bartender.
Graham. It's the authoritarians trying to create a black box, because once it is established, they can put political dissidents inside of it. But their hatred is a story, a myth, and we can choose to reject it. Donald Trump and Stephen Miller want you to believe that this is who we are as a country. And we are here to say that it is not. We are a country that has fought and defeated the Confederacy.
That was all Democrats. You forget, the Democrats love to forget that part, is that the Southern left, the Confederates, were all absolutely Democrats. Yeah, look, Sean, we finally agree on something. I don't think she's completely ugly minus her smile. She does have huge fucking teeth, but look, nobody's perfect. She's a pretty woman. Not saying anything about that. I'm not saying AOC is ugly as sin or anything like that. But yeah, she's not intelligent. That's my point on that. And then when I tell you that the left always loves to show you who they are, and they always love to show you what they want from us, what they really want from us, every once in a while, they like to let it leak out in public.
One question for those still supporting this regime. Do you think it's possible for you to get on IG Live, put a 45 in your mouth, and suck start that hoe? Would that be possible? That'd be great, because y'all are cancer. And to deal with cancer, you either need to treat it or remove it. One question for those still supporting
this regime. And that is, of course, the loving, caring, and supportive left who loves everybody and loves people, yada, yada. And, of course, all do off ourselves. And that tells you exactly who many of them are. Folks, that's it for me here on the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHI Media Network. I'll be back Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 East Coast. I know my newest fan, Sean Lawrence, will be here at 8 Monday. I'll see you. Thanks, big man. I know you really love me, so I appreciate you. I'll see you Monday. Biggest fan of the show right there. But it's not just me. It's not just me here on the Edge on SHR Media. Every Monday and Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 on the East Coast, you have the Reaver of Common Sense, Jersey Joe. Tuesday and Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast. You have Mission Ready Men. That's tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast, right here on SHR Media. Tuesday and Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. You have Busy's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. And then Fridays and Saturdays, 7 p.m. on the East Coast, 4 p.m. Pacific. You have Beer and Bullstein with our good friend Lyle, who is just, his show is incredible. You got to check it out. There's a lot of good info there. And then, as we saw with this last Sunday, and we hope more people, more appearances will be there from him. The Lost Wanderer made an appearance on our YouTube, and make sure you check him out as well. He's such a great show, and I really enjoy it. Thank you so much for being here. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you to our mods for being here and taking care of us. You can get the shirts. Well, this isn't one of the official SHR shirts, but it's still from Seven Armors. Go to shrmedia.com. You can click on the 250 Reasons t-shirt at the top if you want to get some swag. I will see you Monday. Have a great rest of your week.